Hello, and welcome to the Energy Connect studio at ADIPEC 2023. I'm delighted to have once again in the studio Joe McMonigle, Secretary General of the International Energy Forum, IEF. Joe, pleasure to see you again.
Great to be here.
What are your forecasts? What do you think the forecasts are for peak demand for hydrocarbons out there?
Yeah, this is a hot topic, right? So, look, I think the IEA report, it's important for people to realize that that is a scenario. That's not even a forecast, right? So all they're doing is saying, what are the inputs we need? What are the goals in 2050? And backcasting from there. So what are the inputs you need to have to meet our goals? Just to put it in perspective, the oil demand in 2030, the figure they put is 77 million barrels a day. During COVID, we lost 10 million barrels a day. That's with the global economy completely shut down, everybody working from home. This 77 million figure is like double of that, and let's hope we don't have the world completely shut down economically to meet that number. But more importantly, even the IEA puts in their medium-term forecasts that oil demand in 2028, 2 years before 2030, is 106 million barrels a day. So I think the bottom line is that's aspirational. That is a scenario if we want to make these goals and we make certain inputs. I think in the real world, we're not seeing any reduction in demand. If anything, demand is growing, as even the IEA shows in 2028. And, that's because of the developing world. I mean, here, Southeast Asia, Africa, and we have to be able to meet that demand. So there's a need for more investment in hydrocarbons, and it's important, even if you care about climate, because we don't want the public thinking high prices are the reason, are the result of climate policies.
Absolutely, Joe. We're here at ADIPEC, and big thing is decarbonisation here. What is the oil and gas industry doing to decarbonise, and are they doing it fast enough?
Well, I think there's a lot of action here on methane mitigation, okay? And I think the industry recognizes, this is the technologies exist, it's low cost, and it can have immediate impact on climate change, okay? Because methane is such a more powerful source. And I think the issue is how do we, certainly rich countries, rich NOCs, IOCs, they can all afford to do this, even though it's a low cost issue to address. They can afford to do it. But there are parts of the developing world that can't. And so we need climate finance for that. But it's very hard to get access to climate finance for hydrocarbon projects, right? So I think there needs to be some mechanism, the $16 to $20 billion range for these, to help finance the methane mitigation efforts of the developing world and developing country NOCs and IOCs to reduce methane emissions. So there's a lot of focus there. I think there's going to be more focus on CCUS. Direct air capture, we heard a lot about that here from Vicky Holub, the CEO of Occidental, and others. So there's a lot of focus there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw that announcement with ADNOC as well. How is the IEF supporting the carbon management challenge?
Well, we're working with all of our member countries to try to get behind that, okay? And actually, we're trying to get them to go even further because there's a lot of momentum behind hydrogen and hydrogen development, but not so much behind CCUS. And even investment in CCUS really needs to get supercharged. And so what we're trying to do is encourage all member countries, not just member countries of the IEF, but other countries that aren't even members, to make a pledge to CCUS. And actually include it in your NDCs, right? Because even the IPCC report says, CCUS is going to be needed to meet our 2050 climate goals. So it's important. We're doing a lot on hydrogen. We're certainly doing a lot on renewables. I think there needs to be equal focus on CCUS, and we're trying to support that.
Okay, interesting to hear that, Joe. And COP28 is just around the corner. What are your hopes, and what do you think some of the prospects can be for COP28?
Well, I'm very enthusiastic that we have a CEO in charge because I think they focus on, metrics and progress. And the previous COP meetings have all been about pursuing these perfect solutions that are very elusive and you can't get agreement on.
Yeah.
Instead, we have to focus on progress over perfection. And so I think things like methane mitigation, which I suspect we will hear some big announcements at the COP meeting on that. Probably on CCUS. I suspect some stuff on CCUS and maybe even some reforms to climate finance. We have to look for ways to make progress at this COP meeting, and we can make a difference.
Thanks, Joe. Always a pleasure to have you down at the studio.
Great to be here.
Thanks everyone for watching, and I look forward to bringing more studio interviews from the show floor in the coming days.